Hello everyone and welcome to another Friday conversation. Today I'm talking to Rob Hanna, who is the owner of a boutique legal recruitment firm called Kisson Carr, and he was just explaining to me that he's named it after his grandfather, who used to run a large law firm, so perhaps he'll share a little bit more about that with us. He's also a podcaster like me. He's very interested in mental health, diversity and inclusion initiatives, and is very heavily involved with charities too. We're both involved with some of the similar charities as well. So I'm going to hand over to Rob to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about who he is and what he does.
Well, firstly, thank you very much, Hannah. Thank you very much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, I guess in terms of just a brief introduction for me, as you mentioned, I own and run a legal recruitment firm called Kisson Carr. We were incepted in 2016, and as you mentioned, the Carr side is named after my grandfather, who ran a very successful law firm in the 1950s out of Leicester, which actually was the second richest city in the UK at the time due to all of the commercial and hosiery trade. So managed to build a very successful practice. Back then, he actually said, you wouldn't be good enough to be a lawyer. No, I'm joking, he didn't, but he sort of said, the hours are very, very intense. You should maybe be an accountant. So, but I always had a passion for wanting to do something connected to the legal sector, having grown up in his law firm from doing all the really important jobs from stapling, photocopying, all of the essential things that make the law firms back then tick. So was, and that's sort of a large part of what we do. And as you kindly mentioned, I also host the Legally Speaking podcast, which is now into its second season, which is really just all about, probably similar to what lots of people are doing, much like yourself, is trying to really add value to the legal and wider communities through, inspiring guests with inspiring stories that are really trying to give back and share knowledge. And then sort of as an extension of that, I've very recently had the opportunity to be a non-executive director to a few tech startup businesses, which have been quite interesting. And moreover, as you say, on the mental health and diversity inclusion side, that's something I'm exceptionally passionate about. So wherever I can and wherever possible, I love to get involved in that. And I know you and I have a shared mutual contact in Lewis Alexander Baxter, who I think you and I both agree is just a highly impressive young individual that's doing such a great level of work for the mental health space right now.
Absolutely, yes.
And so, one of his initiatives that, he's very kindly asked me to sort of get involved with is his Chit Chat Britain, which is a new sort of it's a conversation for everyone. The tagline is for everyone, and the concept very much is it's a free phone line for people to ring in, and it doesn't sort of progress to be the Samaritans or anything like that. It's really for people just who maybe are feeling quite lonely, quite isolated during this time, and would just like to have a friendly person to speak to at the end of the phone to really help them get through that. So I can appreciate everyone's having their own sort of battles during this period. So I would sort of highly sort of if I could quote unquote promote Chit Chat Britain, because I think what Lewis is trying to do with that is just a wonderful initiative.
Oh, no, I absolutely agree. I know I've spoken to Lewis about it myself. And like you say, it's not there to replace, the Samaritans or Mind or anything like that. It's not sort of that sort of service. It is very much just anybody who, as you say, maybe they live alone, maybe they're feeling lonely. Or I was thinking even for people who perhaps live with their, other half or their family, but actually want to talk to somebody who is not their other half, who they've spent the last 4 or 5 weeks with,
Absolutely. Yeah, I can vouch for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I wanted to start off by asking is, how much did you work from home before now? So how much is this a change for you, if you know what I mean, being on lockdown and working at home all the time?
Yeah, so for me, I think it's been a slight change. So I actually, just in terms of sort of backstep that, I recently sort of left London, in the sense that still my businesses are in London, I work in London, but I sort of made the commute to the suburbs, so to speak. So I now sort of live in Leicestershire, where I get a fast train into London, which is sort of 50 minutes most days. But historically, as a part of that moving out, I did do quite a bit of working from home anyway. So I was probably doing sort of three to 4 days, maybe working from home, and 1 to 2 days in the office or when business needs. So for me, on a sort of personal level, I'm quite used to working from home, because I've been adapting to that over the last year or so. But one of the things I have found generally for the company that I'm running is, I think team members have really missed the sort of culture of being in an office, and as have I, in terms of being around people, just for sort of day-to-day chit-chat, day-to-day interactions, sparking entrepreneurial thinking, commercial thinking, all of those little things that, as great as video technology is at keeping everyone connected, I still don't think you can really replace that office environment. So, we have very sort of forward-thinking things like unlimited annual leave policy, bed days, flexible working, and everything else. And so people are used to having a little bit of that kind of free reign to work from home. But I think as a team collective, which I like to think my company is, I'd say by and large, we're really missing an office environment. But we can still structure and work and be as efficient. But I think just missing that overall team camaraderie is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, do you know that's so similar to the lady I was speaking to last week, Melody, who's a paralegal, and she was saying that actually she's like most of us, is a big fan of having the ability to work from home, but she really does miss the social side. And she says, actually, I think when this is over, I'm not going to be working from home that often at all, because she really does miss that camaraderie in the office. That I think you've mentioned there, and I guess that's what most people are going to find. I mean, I was used to working at least 80% of the time from home, probably, but yeah, at least I was in the office usually about once a week, at the worst once a fortnight. But just having those conversations with people, or even just getting on the train or walking through the town or whatever, I think people really are missing that a lot. And you're noticing that with your team, are you? They're feeding that back to you as well.
Most definitely. But the good thing is, I think we have a very honest, open culture where they feel that they can vocalize that, because I think we do try to encourage that. And that's the other thing we sort of have in terms of a designated mental health officer as well. And, I think it's really, really important, culture. And as much as we do video interviews, as I say, and all of those other bits and pieces, keeping connected and try and do social, social virtual socializing, shall I say, it's still not quite the same. So I think people do miss that. And, so do I. I think, like, you come back to your point about speaking to somebody else, someone different, as much as I like cohabiting with my wife and, we're best of friends, I think sometimes you just want to be in an office environment around other people and kind of learning from them every day and kind of just having a bit of banter as well.
Definitely, yes. So you mentioned there, I know before we started I asked you who's at home with you, and you said it's yourself and your wife. And I didn't say I was going to ask this question, but how are you finding that?
do you know what we tend to live? So my wife's very successful in her own right, in terms of runs has her own career in the oil and gas and energy space, and so we're both very much sort of in the week focused on our careers, and sort of we spend lots of quality time together. But a lot of our friends have joked socially, it's like, I bet Laura and yourself have never spent so much time together. But do you know what it's actually been really quite easy for us, I think, in terms of getting on. I do have the benefit of being able to sort of lock myself in my home office out the way during most of the core days, so it's not too dissimilar. And I know I'm very fortunate to be in that position, that during the working days I can be sort of out of the way and letting her crack on with her role and what she needs to do, and then sort of coming together at dinner times, lunch times, and really making the most of the weekends as well. So I think the other good thing is, actually, she's on a real big fitness drive at the moment, and my fitness has dropped off a cliff, so it is getting me to push me. She's actually running quicker than me at the moment. She's far sportier than me, so there's that competitive element in me that actually it's quite good that she's now getting into all of that, because it's pushing me to kind of get off my arse and be a little bit more proactive.
Well, I suppose I've got a tiny little bit of that in that I'm trying to make the children do Joe Wicks in the morning.
I've heard about this Joe Wicks. Everyone is going crazy about it. Am I missing out?
Yeah, you are definitely. You should tune in at 9 o'clock every weekday on YouTube. But we have taken the holidays off, because, again, I was very keen that the children in all this upheaval had a separation between when term time is and when holidays are. So we haven't been doing very much in the holidays. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that on Monday, because telling the children to do it is one thing, but they only do it if we do it. So it's been good as well.
a funny thing for that is it at 9 o'clock? Because I've had 3 clients, and this is no word of a lie, that have said I can't speak to you before 10 a.m. because I've got to do my Joe Wicks workout. So does it start at 9 o'clock, or is that yeah?
Yes, 9 till 9:30. So my husband has his team meeting at 9:30 straight after. Yeah, no, I can highly recommend it. It's tough. I mean, for someone who's not used to a lot of fitness, as I'm not, it is quite tough. But yes, it's definitely inspired me to try and get a bit more exercise, because I have to encourage them. So I know what you mean with that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Oh.
I think that's
Sorry, go on. Oh no, I was just going to move on to our next question, which was how has this week been in terms of highs and lows for you?
So I think, anyone who knows me, I'm an eternal optimist and try to stay as exceptionally positive as possible, even when you're downbeaten. But I think if I look at it this week, it's been on a personal level, there's been a few lows. So we have some extended family relations that are out in Italy that unfortunately are struggling as a result of the virus. So that's been quite sad to see. I think in terms of work, this week we've lost quite a lot of mandates, as you might expect. I think the level of appetite for kind of hiring is not what it was, but that said, to flip that to a sort of more positive, there are still pockets of work for us. So I think one of my main personal highs is I've not had to furlough anyone within my business. So I feel I will always continue to put people first, and it's more than just words. So one of the personal takeaways I can take from this is that hopefully we're a very smartly run business that will always, where we can, put our people absolutely first. So I think a real positive I'm taking is that we've not had to go down that route due to the fact we've been structured and very sensible with our preparations prior to this. I think that's just one thing I would say is a real personal high for that. But yeah, on the lows, I'd say definitely in terms of the kind of level of work, that's been a bit challenging, and then also just trying to ensure that we're embracing a lot of change, because I think being nimble, we're not a large business, we're sort of there's 8 of us, so we can be quite nimble. So again, trying to get used to adapting and pivoting where we need to, that has presented its opportunities, but also certain challenges and stresses along the way.
Absolutely, I'm sure. Does that is there anything from that you think would be good advice to others? Anything that's either happened this week or during the course of the last few weeks that you'd think might help other people?
I think the things that I have really focused in on is constant communication. So I think for our clients, obviously our core offering, and this can probably be across any sector or any offering, is at the moment, of course, we can't really deliver for them on recruitment because there's a lot of recruitment freezes. There's a lot of a lot of people are unfortunately being furloughed and everything else. So it's actually touching base with our clients to educate them on what more we could be doing, and sort of alternative consulting services, alternative solutions that we can be offering, and just checking in them to ask them how else we can continue to add value to them. So I think that's one of the things that if people are thinking about, well, what more could I be doing? I think really trying to communicate with your clients and being proactive, if you are still in a fortunate position where you are still working, and to see how you can continue to add value to them, because you'll be surprised, there is still a lot of things out there which you can be doing to really help people. But I'd say proactivity is definitely one of the main things, because I think you can feel a little bit demotivated, you can feel a little bit flat, you can feel a little bit in your shell. But if you're in a sort of client service facing industry, such as myself, I think the main thing is you've got to get out there and maintain those relationships, foster those relationships, and ensure you can add value to those people, because they'll remember that now more so than in the good times. I think if you're loyal to your existing clients and you foster those relationships, even though you may not feel you can add as much value as you typically can, they'll really value that and treasure that for the long term.
Oh, I agree 100%. I've been talking to people about this quite a lot recently. Whether they are law students, or whether they're lawyers or whoever they are, is, you know, use this time to, or if you know, if you're not completely run off your feet and got children at home and things, but if you're finding yourself either furloughed or business is quieter than usual, etc., you know, use this time to build those relationships, just like you say. So relationships with existing clients or potential future contacts and clients, you know, just by checking in with them, seeing how they are, how, as you say, from a service perspective, how you can help. I think, and just as you said, it's when you make relationships in these difficult times that they're really going to be strong future relationships.
Absolutely. And I think if I was just to add on a sort of your personal development side of things that I've been doing a lot of myself during this time, is I've really used it as a time to go away and reflect where my key skills are and where my key skills aren't, and maybe what I need to improve on to future proof. So I've always thought I was quite technically advanced, and I'm a big believer in tech. I'm involved in certain tech businesses, but I've really looked at my business in terms of working on the business rather than in the business during this time, in terms of how we can increase efficiencies, how we can operate a lot better, how we can implement change now. Because I think if we ride this wave, and admittedly maybe the revenues may not be there, but if we're actually operationally improving and making these sort of 1% changes every day during a crisis, crikey, we should hopefully be tenfold stronger and better and more efficient when we come out of the other side. So I think definitely if anyone's sort of running a business or managing a team or anything like that, thinking about actually, you know, the runnings of that and how you could improve that is something I've looked at. And secondly, just making sure that you're utilizing your network. I'm a massive advocate of networking. I can't underestimate the value of that. So, you know, personal branding, networking. I know people are probably webinared out, but I've actually learned so much from being on a lot of webinars over the last sort of few days or so. So if you can allow yourself time for personal self-development and investing in that and getting yourself out there, again, I think that'll come back in spades after all of this is over.
Oh, definitely. I mean, anybody who knows me knows I'm obviously a big advocate of that in any times. But I think in times like this, we can really learn a lot about ourselves, and as you say, where our skills are, where some of our skills gaps might be, and learn from other people as well. It's a double-edged sword, though, I think, because I know right at the beginning of this, people were talking about, oh, you know, you can take up a new instrument, you can learn a new language, you know, read all the books you plan to read. And I think maybe we all went into it feeling a bit like that. But I don't know about you, I feel the tide has changed maybe even this last week. I see a lot of people who are a bit fatigued by that and thinking, actually, do you know what, I'm just trying to survive, never mind learning a new instrument or a new language. But I think there's a middle ground, and I think that's what I was hearing in what you were saying is, you know, it doesn't have to be some whole new language or something, but there's still lots that we can learn about ourselves without putting too much pressure on
and it's sort of little changes. Learning a whole new language in 3-4 months and putting that pressure on yourself, I don't think it's going to do anything great. I think the other thing that you can do, and one thing I've been doing a lot as well, is to get intrinsic value and intrinsic motivation, is give back to your network. And this touches on, I know, Hannah, you and I, again, back to some of our mental health work and sort of bits and pieces in that, and mentoring of junior people coming into professions. You know, one thing that's really motivated me, I think everyone's going to accept that their sales, their revenues, by and large, are probably going to be down. Don't have that as your goal over this period. You know, if you're in a position where you can give back and you really get satisfaction from that, then do you know what? Invest in that, because, you know, it's the intrinsic value, the intrinsic way that you actually feel as a result of that giving back that will actually, you know, not only is it helping other people, but you will generally make yourself feel good about yourself. And so that's something I've been really trying to do where I can, as much as I can, is give back to my networks. And I found that's really been intrinsically rewarding for myself.
No, absolutely. I think that's a brilliant point to end on, actually. There you go. Look for where you can give back, whether it's to your connections, to your community, whoever it's to, because that does help with our mental health and well-being. I agree. And in times where, you know, if business is down, rather than focus on that, focus on where we can help. That's a really good point to finish on. So I just want to thank you so much for coming to join me to have a chat.
Thank you very much, Hannah. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm a big fan of all your work and everything you're doing. So yeah, thank you so much for having me, and no doubt we'll chat again in the not too distant future.
We will, absolutely. And thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you have a lovely weekend.